Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Now, I'm quite excited about today's episode because I'm often guilty of just being face down, creating content at a desk on my own for days, weeks, months and years fly by. But after nearly 750 episodes and some amazing stories, there are some that stay with me for many years after the interview. And for me, that's why I record these daily shows. Because every day is a school day and I try to learn something different from every single person that I meet, whether it be on the phone or in person. And way back when I first launched this podcast, one of my first guests was Alain from Frontdoor. I think I was on episode 31. And he had a story that really moved me. And now we have thousands of more listeners. I might ask him to tell that story again. But rather than reveal too much, buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to San Francisco so we can speak with Alain again from Frontdoor and get him onto the show. So a massive warm welcome back to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do for anyone that missed our first chat way back on episode 31?
Absolutely. So my name is Alain Kapatashungu and I'm 34 and I'm actually a French citizen. I was born in a little country called Burundi, which is a small landlocked country in the African Great Lakes region in East Africa. Really small country bordered by Rwanda. Maybe some of you guys heard about it. To the north, and then the DRC, which is the Democratic Republic of Congo, to the west. So I have a background in business, and currently I'm focused on building my company called Frontdoor, which is a SaaS platform that we created for real estate professionals, mainly in the US and Canada, where we're actually helping those guys really make the most out of their time by completely and finally eliminating everything that deals with guesswork when they're receiving leads online.
Now, like I said a few moments ago, for people just tuning in, we last spoke on episode 31 back in March 2016, but with hand on my heart here, 700 episodes later, I've heard a lot of stories, some come and some go. Yours is one of those stories that has remained close to my heart for the last couple of years, because this show is not just about how technology is transforming multiple industries and indeed our lives, but about very real human stories and the drivers behind people's success. So after 700 episodes, I do have a much bigger audience scattered across 165 countries now. And I apologise for asking again, but would you mind sharing your story as a French entrepreneur whose journey has seen you travel from the war and genocide in Rwanda to building an artificial intelligence app in the valley to empowering city dwellers, for all those that missed that original conversation?
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. So, I was born in Burundi, basically, and left the country when I think I was maybe just a year old, as my parents had an opportunity to relocate in Rwanda, which is a country right near to Burundi. So my childhood for a couple of years there was really great up until that night up in, I think it was 93 or 94. I don't remember exactly. But I was really young. It was just me, my mom, and my sister. And so that night, pretty much, our president, the president of Rwanda's plane has been, actually was attacked, pretty much. So that very night, literally everything that you can imagine that could be worse about us humans pretty much broke loose, right? So in a matter of hours, we've lost everything. We've lost our home. We actually had to flee our home. We left everything pretty much behind. So when I remember that we only took a bottle of milk, pretty much, my sister, my mom, and I, and we ran for almost three or 4 months. We spent an entire week with no food and just anything that you can imagine about maybe your worst nightmare, the worst horror movie you can think of. This is actually something we're living on an everyday basis. So working, seeing people pretty much dying on every single corner that you will go on, having to jump above bodies, above babies. I don't want to be too graphic, but this is really was something that was really, really frightening, and that was really something that actually changed me pretty much and my family forever. So up until we found refuge into a camp in the nearing country, which is Congo, where I had family. I had my uncle there. So we've been able to kind of stay there for a few months. And then from there, pretty much since my dad was already in France, we've been able to kind of have, visas and things like that to be able to move from that specific region and then arrive into a much safer place, which is France and Paris, where I got my citizenship. But yeah, this was something that I couldn't reach to actually my worst enemy, but it was actually something that taught me a lot. And everything I think about it, I don't think about it as a sad memory. I really think about it as something that drives me for all of my friends and people that actually unfortunately didn't make it through. Every time I had a hard moment, I think about how lucky I am to actually be here, how lucky I am to be doing what I'm doing. So you will never hear a complaint in my mouth, because I actually got a do-over at life, which is not something that some of my friends and people and family back then could actually say today. So I'm grateful.
I think the first time we spoke and you told that story, I think I'd seen the movie Hotel Rwanda around that time with Don Cheadle, which it kind of helps visualize, you can't begin to imagine the kind of things that you saw. But it's interesting how it's helped shape you as an individual and helped drive you, everything. And you've been able to turn a negative into a positive, haven't you?
Exactly, absolutely. Because you think about life and you think about how precious and how really fleeting it is. We talk about it, but yet when you go through those type of situations, even if I was really young, you really understand that everything could be taken away pretty much at any moment's notice. So me being here, being able to be in my 30s now, I think about all of my younger friends that I had that unfortunately died during that conflict. And I can just help but wonder, like, what people would it be today? And so every time I think about, just every time I will be a little bit down, and every time I will be a little bit discouraged, because in this entrepreneurship journey we take, everything is not, things can get really, really complicated. So every time I will think about that time, and I will just see how lucky I am pretty much to be here. So I always look at that period of my life as something that I'm really grateful that I went through, which is really hard to say, I know, but it's really something that actually defined me. There's something that told me about resiliency, that told me about perseverance, that told me about courage as well, because we had to walk every single day. Like, we spend an entire week with no food. And so you have to be perseverant in order to just think about today. Today's really a bad day, but tomorrow hopefully is going to be a better one. So that taught me a lot about those aspects actually in life, which have been really, really important to me.
It really is an inspirational and powerful story, and one that will stay not only in the heart and minds of myself, but people listening now in 165 different countries. So again, here we are in 2018, can you offer an overview of exactly what Frontdoor App is and what kind of problems you're solving? And most importantly, what have I missed in the last 2 years?
Yeah, absolutely. So Frontdoor, basically, when we talked, you and I, 2 years ago, we were more focused on a consumer aspect of the problem, where we're actually helping renters, completely eliminate this back and forth emailing and latency when it came to finding an apartment in large urban areas. So this was mainly in San Francisco. But then what we've quickly realized, thanks to the data we've been able to collect, is that pretty much Frontdoor was way more appealing to our real estate partners. So what we call B2B customers. So these people were really, really excited about the opportunity, really, really excited about the product. So a few months ago, this is only 8 or 9 months ago, we actually decided to kind of change our direction and move from being a consumer product to being a more pretty much a real estate focused one for professionals. So now today with Frontdoor, what we're doing is that we are helping real estate agents mainly and brokers to actually now take the guesswork out of receiving leads. When you actually manage leads as an agent, the problem is you don't have information about the people contacting you. You don't even know why you should be investing your time. So basically, we are helping those guys really maximize every single minute they will spend working. And the way we do that is that we have built the technology that allow us to grab any single piece of available information on any single prospect that actually interact with their listings. So by doing that, we are completely removing this aspect of manual work, this aspect of guesswork for them. And so thankfully, hopefully enough, fortunately enough, Frontdoor now is trusted by really some of the most largest and interesting real estate companies out there from in the US, Canada, but as well in Europe, Paris, Berlin, and London. And now we're actually focused on really helping those guys really be better at engaging with their customers and understanding who they are online and how they can actually really better invest their time and hopefully increase their sales and increase the opportunity, pretty much.
Now, I have recently spoken with a few female startup founders who've told me that when it comes to venture capital, many women are just not taken seriously now. So when I explored this topic even further, I quickly learned that minorities are unrepresented too. So I'm curious, can you tell me more about this problem and any experience or insights you've had around this old boys club in Silicon Valley? Does that still exist?
Absolutely. And I'm really passionate about this because, to be pretty much honest, I really hate this notion of this word inclusion. We talk about it a lot, but to me, it doesn't mean really anything. Because why do female founders, for example, or minority founders or black founders in this case, as I am one, or other minority founders have to be included? Why not just assume that we're already part of that said community? So the thing that I will actually like to inform our listeners today is that unfortunately, even today in Silicon Valley, but it's also true in Paris, where I was a few months ago, is that because I spent time between Europe and the US, you can actually see that you still have this, just like you said, just kind of all white male club. The founders in tech today are white and, they came from the same school. They've done the same majors and things like that. Even venture capitalists, unfortunately, they don't really look as, the tech community today's looks. So there are not as much women as we should have. There's not as much black venture capitalists or other minority venture capitalists as we should have. So actually, I have a crazy story that happened to me recently. So I was in a pitch meeting with a venture capitalist, and we've been talking over email, and he was really excited about the company and where we're going, what we're doing. And then when we arrived for the pitch meeting, and the first thing that he said to me is that, wow, you guys have really built something really interesting here. Like, people in the industry are really talking about what you guys are doing. So who is beyond this? And I was a little bit surprised because I was like, if you look at my signature in my email, it's me. I'm the co-founder and CEO. But the intent, what was implied here is who is really behind this. Like, you can be able to do something like this. You can be able to put something like this out there. But the thing that actually, not to our credit, unfortunately, that it completely missed out is that I've been in this industry for the last 9 years, and I've built relationship with people from my industry for this last 9 years, and that's actually some kind of the things that you actually seeing today. Unfortunately, whether you are a female founder, whether you are a minority founder, you will still look pretty much overlooked as this person that couldn't be actually able to build companies like the one we see today. Or if you do, you have to build something that will be related to African products or, a black related product. But I'm actually a tech founder. And I think that as a community, instead of talking about inclusion, as we love to claim as a group, what we're seeing today is a complete omission of people who really don't resemble to that white ball club, as you say, whether it's in Silicon Valley or here in Europe. And really, it's all about fitting into a box. But here's a question. Since when entrepreneurship has been about fitting into a box? Well, we're all about just creating new ways. And I think that comes into any shape and form. So hopefully we're going to be seeing this situation changing, but I really encourage us all as a community to kind of just be more open-minded about those questions.
Absolutely. It's shocking because I think I've always thought that diversity of thought and ensuring it reflects the diversity of a business's customers and their clients has never been more crucial. But as a community, how do you think we can improve diversity in business and indeed beyond that too?
Absolutely. I think that by just being accountable, Neil. So as little has been done actually in that aspect, and we entrepreneurs, we are not focused on perfection, right? We definitely always focus on progress. So how can you address a problem that you won't even acknowledge that is there? This is really complicated to do. So I really want us just as a community to just stop pretending like those on like there's no issue around female founders, or there's no issue around race, and because those issues are really existing, and we just need to address them and come and talk, to different kind of founders, and just kind of learn about what drives us and how we can build better communities, better inclusion, to actually say that pretty much together. And I think that we might just realize that how beneficial it could be for us all as a community to work with people that are very different from our background, that are very different from our beliefs, that are very different from what we could actually expected. And this is true both in America and in Europe, by the way. This is not just a US problem. This is definitely as well a European problem that we're actually seeing. So I would love to kind of get back to that notion of just being open to one another, and just being open to kind of welcoming people that are completely different from your background. That would be really beneficial to us all as a community.
Now, earlier this year, I did visit San Francisco for a conference, and I don't know if it's just me, but I seem to pick up this time a little tension towards the tech community for pretty much making it impossible for anyone to be able to afford to live there now. But then when I went for my little wanders, they also appeared to be a lot more homeless people than my previous visit. And it kind of struck me that there's this kind of huge contrast in the valley of people with millions and living a life of luxury, and those living almost next door with absolutely nothing. I mean, is that the case, or was I way off the mark there?
You're definitely spot on that one. That was the first thing that actually struck me as well when I moved to San Francisco. And I also have to say that people such as, Mark Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce, or Jeff Bezos up in Seattle, they are now looking to address this problem. But that's not enough. This should be a collective effort. Because you see, Neil, it's really hard for tech CEOs out there to kind of understand this, because the problem with technology today is that we're actually creating really funny missions. Like, there's nothing behind our vision. There's nothing behind what we actually claim being our vision. It remains to be some kind of a shallow thing. And I think that there's no social DNA today in our companies, especially in technology. And if you lack that component, you actually don't know what you're actually building a company for. What is the intent behind it? As Simon Sinek, who's an author that I really love, he had this incredible TED talk about finding your why as a company, and explained how Apple and all of those companies are actually completely building everything that they do driven by that why. So when it's all said and done, actually, would your company matter, and did it help better, the lives of people living in that specific city, and here pretty much in San Francisco? And I think that too many times in technology, we talk a lot about mission, but really completely forgot about what it is we're actually trying to do here. What is the end goal when it's all said and done? But yeah, I've been completely shocked by those images as well when I got to San Francisco.
Now, I also read a great quote from you recently where you said businesses with a social DNA are the ones that will redefine the role of business and also set the table for a better society. I absolutely love that quote. But can you tell me more about that role that you're playing in this?
Absolutely. So from the beginning, following my arrival in San Francisco, we actually had this idea around, we are building Frontdoor. We're really excited about the company, but what was the intent? We've always had this idea of intent. And if we get back to some of the question you asked me a little earlier about how do I feel when I was talking about actually being fortunate enough to be alive, everything that I do has to actually have an intent. So we live in this world where, again, we talk a lot about vision. We talk a lot about the companies we're building, but I really had this at heart, where I really wanted to build something that would leave the world better, that actually found it. So to that extent, we are clear today building Frontdoor on how we can actually articulate this. To give you a really clear example, every single seat, and by seat I mean membership, we're actually selling to our largest customer that we're starting with beginning of next year. So every single membership we're selling to that customer, we are going to be donating $1 back to the National Association to End Homelessness, as an example, because this is something that's actually happening in 2019. So this is actually a real and measurable thing with a real impact. As I was inspired by people like Blake Mikosi, maybe you've heard of him, as the CEO of Tom's, who actually donated shoes. For every shoe that he will sell, he will literally donate another shoe for people missing shoe in the world. And I think that those type of business calls, we need more of those. We need to be impactful now, and not just 10 years from now, pretty much. So we as a company, we pledge that funding our company, we actually pledge 1.5% of our equity, which is a portion of our future success. That's a long-term vision, of course, but we're going to be donating that to a very well association and people that fights this daily plague that is homelessness, especially in San Francisco, but as well in other major part of the world. Because entrepreneurship should never be, to me, about a payday. It must be about truly changing the world, like not as a catchphrase, as we love to say it, but really as something that could benefit all of us for generation. But that's just me. That's just my point of view.
So I've got to ask, what excites you about the future of technology and indeed your work with Frontdoor?
Yeah, I'm really excited about what's happening now with pretty much the increasing role of AI in our space and machine learning and things like that. So I'm really fascinated about the trends we are seeing on how we can actually leverage technology to help real estate professionals really invest their time better, but also be more be more in a position where they can really enjoy their work life as well, which wasn't the case, or is not the case anymore for the last couple of decades. So I'm really excited to see what role we'll play with Frontdoor in that specific area for the next 10 years to come, and the model that we have, the people that have been using the product, and the feedback we've been getting. I get to travel a lot from Paris to Berlin and London, and we can see some kind of an anticipation on where we're heading and what we're doing. So we are really excited about the scale and where we're going for next year. But those are the trends and the technology evolutions that we are really, really passionate about.
So 2019 is just around the corner now. Are there any big goals or objectives that you can share with me today? I appreciate you probably can't share too much, but is there anything you can about the road ahead?
Absolutely. So we are scaling our operations pretty much. So we were only focused in 3 markets so far. We were in San Francisco, we were in New York City, and we were in DC. So in 2019, we're actually opening up 7 new markets before the end of the first quarter. So we're going to be opening up Phoenix, LA, Denver, and other markets. We also focused on growing the number of people that we have on the platform. We want to get to 50,000 real estate professionals that are actually using our platform in those markets. And we also actually fundraising in the first quarter of 2019, and we've been having some really interesting conversation as the product has been really interested and actually wanted by some of the customers that we have. So we're really focused and looking into how would all of that play for us in 2019. And just keep on building on our mission, keep on building and growing the company, and still having in mind this aspect of social DNA that I just talked about, because the whole point for us in building this company 2019, 2020, 2021 is to really make sure that we are really, really building something that could be impactful, both on the business side, but also on the social side. Those are our plans pretty much for 2019.
Well, before I do let you go, I've got to ask, can you remind the listeners of where they can find you online and maybe even contact a member of your team if they have any questions?
Absolutely. So I'm on Twitter. So myself, it's at AKPTSH, which is my name shortened. On Facebook, it's Alain Kapatashungu. So KAPATASHUNGU. On LinkedIn, it's the same. And if you want to contact us on a company level, we are literally everywhere. On Twitter, it's at the Frontdoor App. On Instagram, it's Frontdoor App. On Facebook, it's Frontdoor App as well. Or if you just want to shoot me an email, it's alain@frontdoorapp.com. More than happy to connect with you guys and learn about what you guys are doing.
Well, I cannot thank you enough for coming back on today. I really love what you do, but not only that, what you stand for, and for coming on here and sharing that powerful and inspirational story again. We won't leave it 2 years until we talk again. In fact, I'm either going to San Francisco or you're coming to Europe, so I think we need to hook up and grab a beer at some point as well. But
absolutely.
A big thank you for coming on today. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Neil. Thanks for making the time. I really appreciate this.
After 700 episodes, I do have a much bigger audience and scattered across 165 countries now. But the heart of this podcast is still exactly the same as when I launched episode 1. So I cannot thank Alain enough for coming back on the show today, and I do hope to meet him in person and shake his hand. And some essential points were highlighted today in the tech industry, and it's easy to see why he's so passionate about diversity and how venture capital access for underrepresented minorities is a subject that he's very close to his heart. And hearing figures like only 1.3% have access to venture capital investment as the norm is shocking. But as we all know, every business must be as diverse as its audience and as its customers, or it will go out of business. So as a community, we're losing a great deal of diversity. And this is a problem where we should all work collectively as an ecosystem to allow founders like Alain that are resilient to actually have access to capital. So I'm so glad we got to speak with him again today. But what did you enjoy about today's conversation? Or is there any feedback, any extra thoughts or insights that you would like to bring to the table? Email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, or tweet me at Neil C. Hughes. And on a slightly lighter note, on my daily Christmas movie, I watched Daddy's Home 2 last night and must admit I giggled like a naughty schoolboy throughout. I'm a sucker for silly slapstick stuff. But enough from me. Work hard, stay humble, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.